Hey Harpreet, welcome to the Moltbook Reset. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Herman. Thanks for having me here.
Where are you calling from today?
Calling in from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Amazing, amazing. So, just to set a brief context, Harpreet, as I was mentioning to you before this podcast, that uh, this is where we discuss where blockchains fit in the post-agentic world. Right now, AI is all the hype, AI agents, multi-agent systems, post-agentic world that people are visualizing. But blockchains, as we see, have a key role in that future, and that's what we want to explore further. Uh, uh, Many enterprises have this fear, I'll say, that whatever research they have done in blockchain is all going to wane. It's becoming useless. But that's where the clarity is required, and I believe that a person with your skill set, with your knowledge, who is talking both about agentic world as well as blockchains, who comes from both of the worlds, would be an ideal thought projector for us. So welcome to the podcast, and really excited for this episode.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for having me here, though.
So, initially, as usual, would love to start with a brief intro if you can share with our audience about your experience, about your work in blockchain and AI.
Of course. So, hello everyone. My name is Harpreet Singh Maan. I'm currently the co-founder and CEO of Teiza. So it's actually coming from a Punjabi word as well, Teja. Like fast, right? So we kind of like played around with the word because we were trying to execute things fast, and it was also a word. Yeah, my mamaji used to tell me that, oh, you're like Imunda Teja. So I used to pick that up word and I called it as one of my company's name. So, but what we do here is actually we are actually trying to build institutional grade protocol, right? Where we are trying to kind of work towards eliminating a lot of the pain that institutions have, where you have to pick between like private chains or like private protocols and kind of build all of those things, or then you have to pick between public chains where everything is on the chain and you don't have your transparency and you lose your competitive edge, right? So we noticed that that's quite an impossible trade-off, and there's a lot of difficulties of onboarding. So we decided to go another way, kind of solving these problems with solutions. But today I'm not trying to pitch Teiza, right? We can always have another call about that. But today about myself, right? I actually got into crypto and blockchain pretty early. So as early as 2012, actually. So when I got into Bitcoin, right? Somebody was trying to sell me a scam token, right? They were having like this kind of an MLM project and token, and he was trying to pitch me. So there was somebody I knew. So I knew like he might have something good, but at the same time, during his pitch, he keeps saying that this is better than Bitcoin. This is if Bitcoin can do this, this will break like the charts and like do it much better than Bitcoin. And in my mind was like, what the hell is Bitcoin? So I went back home. I started doing a lot more research, and then I figured out that, oh, this is like Bitcoin. Like this new like a money, digital money thing. And I said, this is interesting. And a day later, he came back to me. It's like, hey, bro, are you ready? Are you now a believer? Are you going to buy this? I was like, no, I bought Bitcoins. So that kind of happened early days. But I won't say that I actually understood it at all, right? I understood it to a very surface level. I knew that this is something interesting. It has a lot of traction. But I didn't understood it like completely, like what is blockchain and technology and everything. I really got its understanding when I was actually doing my master's. I was doing master's in software engineering, and I decided to pick a very unusual topic. It was called multi-agent systems. So I was the only student who picked it up in my university. So literally me and lecturer was having debate sessions all the time, and I was the only student who ever took it. That was the only semester they offered it. That's the only semester I took it, and after me, nobody took that topic as well, right? But that kind of changed my trajectory in life. So at that particular time, when we were exploring the set of different technologies, I was looking at edge computing, I was looking into AI, I was looking into IoT, I was looking into big data. So I was trying to see where should I build my career path towards. So I was like around 24 at this age. But when I was trying to set my career path, when I got exposed to agents as theory back then, this is somewhere around 2017, right? And I was like, "Oh shit, these agents are really cool. Like these guys can work together. They can be like a really smart set of agents who are able to collaborate, communicate, and like do intelligence, like decision making, and make a lot of our lives easier." So I started to ponder a lot about it. Like think about how agents can behave, like how agents can be, like changing the world, how much good can it bring to society. But then, as I start to study more and more deeply into it, I also started to see the negative prospect, how agents can become selfish, how they can become criminals, how they can become violent, how they can, like become a bit more dystopian, right? So I had like both the exposure to the utopian side of the technology and the dystopian side of the technology pretty early. So that's why I kind of figured out there has to be some sort of a technology which will be like it'll be like the yin to yang, like kind of being like the balanced technology, something that's ever changing, evolving, like and kind of like constantly updating itself, and there's something has to be permanent, unchanging, right? So like, and there has to be a technology to that. So I started to do a bit more research about that sector, and because I was trying to pick a topic for my research as well at the same time, so I was looking towards how blockchain can enable more trust into, into an agentic system. So that was like that area that I was actually trying to explore, like at that particular time. But then I also realized something. I was 10 years too ahead of time, right? So I was exploring this in 2017. So I thought, okay, this will be really cool. You can explore, you can do a lot of research, right? And I noticed that blockchain might be the missing layer to basically ensure there's trust in the system, adding in the like unchanging element. But at the same time, I also noticed that I was way ahead of time, and I had to pick a choice. Do I go towards AI now or go towards blockchain now? This is like pre LLM. This is like the early days. We're still trying to figure out transformers era. And I noticed that AI has like a lot of capital and force behind it. But if I go into blockchain, I'll be a market leader. So I decided to position myself into building blockchain early because I noticed that that layer is underserved and like misunderstood, and not everybody gets it. What will be its future set of values? So I decided to work on blockchain first and became like one of the experts in the blockchain field, while I also keep educating myself in the agentic space. So that has been my journey so far. So I did a lot of things on the way. I started multiple ventures, started multiple companies, exited some multiple companies, invested in companies, right? And I kind of grew myself, my career, my wealth, and my knowledge at the same time as we went. Yeah. Back to you, Herman. Yeah.
Oh, amazing, amazing. So it's fascinating how both of these trajectories are now coming together. I'm sure it is much more fascinating for you, and would have been keeping you awake at night on how this world is coming together. So I'll ask a direct question I have in mind, which I think you'll be the right person to answer. Where do you think people are shoehorning blockchain into the agentic AI workflows right now? Right? What are the common blockchain hammer looking for a nail kind of situations that you see in the market right now?
Okay. Yeah, I lost you for a bit, but I get your question. Right. So today, right, the use cases are not very clear, right? Because people are trying to see what is able to make money now, and how you're able to quickly pick up. So an agent will be as good as is, like a LLM, or it's a, like a inferencing engine behind it is going to be, right? So the better the engines, the better the tools, the better like the overall layer, orchestration layer, and everything becomes, the better the amount of use cases that you'll be able to unlock, right? So basically all of them are like happening in tandem right now. You have like the blockchain and TLT architectures getting better. You have like the learning models, like kind of improving, maybe not just LLM, but a lot of the other AI, what they call AI models, are also improving, either be vision, either be like physics, right? Either be like financial. So there are going to be a lot more models popping up as well, right? That will that kind of specialize. But today, right, when you look into the use cases, I think a lot of people are still like to, like in the crypto and Web3 space, people are still looking more towards how can they make money, right, out of this space, right? So they're trying to see how they're able to generate revenue. So I can see a lot of like DeFi, like sort of agents popping up. I'm seeing like a lot of like what do you call, a lot of task operators kind of agents popping up, right? So if you see like a lot of the agents that might sit down on virtuals right now, for example, right? So they have wide ranging of tools, but which gets used is only like a quite set of a few set of agents actually that are actually operating or is being used, or there's a demand for it. But it's a good start actually. So if you really look into it, this proves the idea that there is a need to create this, and there is a need to build this, right? But as we go, I think as LLMs and the toolkits for that gets better, that we unlock more use cases, there will be an exponential growth towards the type of use cases that's going to be unlocked by each of these agents.
Great. I'm glad you picked up the financial use case because I had a question in mind for that space. Fintech being the at the forefront of innovation, both in blockchain and AI, because of stable coins and blockchain and other AI related advantages that it is receiving. So, if you were advising a startup today that wants to build, let's say, an AI agent as a financial advisor, autonomous financial advisor, what would you tell them where to reach, where to use blockchain, and when to leave it alone?
Yeah. So I mean, when you look into when to use blockchain and when to leave it alone, yeah. When you look towards agentic finance today, I think in a future where agents are managing your finance, agents are making financial decisions, and they are mature enough to basically take independent decision making, that future a human trader or a human, a decision maker will never make it, won't make much money anymore. Usually that will be the case because an agent will be plugged in with the most information, with the most latest news. They will be able to transact and execute these trades much faster. They will have a better decision making capability because the access of all the market, right? Even having a lot of the uh, different set of agents working together towards making a decision, that is also, will unlock a lot new possibilities. But coming towards the blockchain use case, right, I think there has to be a clear differentiator. You have the execution, automation, technology, inferencing, what they call a data collection, data validation, data verification layer, which is like all the AI stuff of things. But then you have something that is the assets, like the trade, the verification, right? The security, that becomes like the blockchain part of things. So it will have both working, both of these layers or both of these mechanisms will be working there at the same time, right? But they will be complementing each other, right? Instead of I even heard of people who was trying to do like agentic smart contracts and stuff. I was like, okay, what kind of value you bring on this? You can always like create like an agentic that executes smart contracts on your behalf instead of trying to slot in the agent into the blockchain itself, right? I said then your compute and the current blockchain infrastructures doesn't have a proper infrastructure for these AIs to run on blockchain itself. Right? A lot of these blockchains doesn't support those because their compute requirements are very little. They are basically at the same time the execution requirement for the compute is also like very limited, the amount of things they can do. Right? Some of the blockchains are not even turning complete, right? So in this case, there will be a lot of limitations of doing those things on contract, and so there was one. But I said you can always build off-chain contracts, or you can always build special layers for AI execution, which can be decentralized as well, but at the same time use the blockchain element for security, for to have the temper resistantness of the network, but at the same time using the automation layer, which is more robust, scalable, like elastic. So then you will be able to get the benefit of the both worlds, and at the same time improve delivery of service, improve the number of use cases you can unlock with that. So that's the base mindset that I think people need to need to understand, that you don't have to fit everything. It's not that one will win against the other, right? Both all of these technologies are going to improve, complement, and come towards a convergence, right? So that's why when I got into blockchain, I was not saying that okay, I'm abandoning AI, because I came, I was doing a lot more research in AI, right? But I still kept a lot of my knowledge from AI. I still keep doing some stuff in AI, but a lot of my focus was on blockchain. But at the same time, also I was doing some stuff in quantum. I was doing some stuff in other stuff as well. I keep learning as much as I can, keeping myself involved, right? Because I know there will be a time where maybe a blockchain is powered by a quantum computer, right? The agents are powered and processed, like the processing powers are maybe by a set of quantum computers, right? Maybe all of them are using some edge processing units. There might be some IoTs there, right? So it all will be a convergence in terms of trying to making our lives better, in terms of unlocking a lot more value for people.
Absolutely. So what I
Okay.
hear from this conversation is that blockchain actually goes back to what it was called all these years ago, and the word that has been lost as a DLT, distributed ledger technology. It goes back to its essence. It at the end of the day, it is the ledger on top of which all the AI agents work. Whether it's an asset that sits on the ledger, whether it's a settlement that happens because of the ledger, whether it's programmable compliance, or whether it's something else that the agents need to work upon, the conditions and the rules and the assets and the verification that is going to stay in the ledger. It's like the foundation of a building on top of which you can make the building as beautiful as possible. You can do all kinds of interior designing and different workflows around that, but that foundation is going to be much more crucial as we move forward with post agentic world. And I think that's where even true blockchain expertise also starts shining again. It's not just about random smart contract creation. It's not just about staking protocols coming up every now and then. Another project like the one that reached out to you in 2012 and in retrospect did help you in the right direction with pointing you to Bitcoin, glass half full. These kind of projects, they don't survive anymore, and we have already seen a downfall in these projects. All the new exciting tokenization use cases that we have seen over the past year, they have all died down, and only the institutional use cases are the ones that have now taken the limelight and are actually moving towards mass adoption as well, slowly as we speak, right? So really amazing to understand that perspective. And while I am on this point, I know you are embedded quite deeply into the Malaysian ecosystem, being a fourth generation person from Malaysia. So Malaysia government has publicly committed to strengthening the blockchain ecosystem and building a national asset tokenization framework, as I recall. So why is now the right moment for tokenization to go national in Malaysia?
I think it comes to there has to be many different set of conditions that actually enables this. But let me give you, like the bigger picture. So Malaysia, I mean, like positioned in ASEAN at the same time, like geopolitically currently neutral. A lot of people often forget that Malaysia is also, like a financial hub, right? And like it is the number one in Islamic finance ecosystem. And actually, majority of our GDP comes from services, and a big chunk of it is financial services. So a lot of the financial engineering and financial product and servicing is actually quite mature here in Malaysia, and a lot of it is, of course, thanks to Singapore being next door. We learn a lot of things from them. We also trade a lot with them, and we also what they call the build a lot of financial products in line with them as well. So there's a lot of knowledge sharing that happens between both of the spaces. So and a lot of the blockchain development that happened here, because a lot of people did a lot of Bitcoin and crypto events early, pre 2012, like 2011, 2010. They started doing a lot of these Bitcoin conferences in Singapore. From there, a lot of Malaysians attended, and from there, they started to come back and bring back a lot of this knowledge. And they spent years building communities, educating, training, talking to people, like telling them about this value. And what happened from there is a lot of these people who were learning about Bitcoin and everything, they started to rank up in, like in these banks or like these institutions. And there's some level of understanding there as well in Malaysia right now. That there's some basic level of understanding. Then comes to the other part. Why now, right? So since we are positioned as a services, what they call financial services country, right, and as one of the financial services hub, so when we see a lot of the other players like the US, UK, like Hong Kong, Dubai, moving actively forward in this, they created like a form of like a FOMO that okay, we are being left out, right? So if let's say we are not well positioned, we are not really embracing tech, we are not really embracing these new technologies, we're not really learning, we'll be left out and we'll be a backfoot player in a lot of this technology adoption. And at the same time, I actually sit as the president of Access Blockchain Association Malaysia. So we do a lot of lobbying, education, and basically policy development with the Malaysian government since 2017, actually. So it was done, like through various presidents. I'm also, currently the serving president, but the presidents before has also contributed a lot in this, where they actually work hand in hand with the government in terms of educating them about what are the use cases, how will this basically push the nation forward, what the value will create from average Malaysians. At the same time, what are the risks and the things that we have to worry about if we, when we are charting out to this path. And at the same time, there's the realization that this most likely will happen with or without them, right? So in this case, institutions started to get that now. Initially, they were afraid, they were in denial, they will think this will die. Like this was like the conversation in 2012, 2013, 2015, 2016. This is all scam, this is all hype, right? Then early 2020, 21, oh, what is this? Why is this so over bloated? It will crash, right? So as they grow, they are losing market share, right? They're losing market share. A lot of the younger crowds prefer crypto. They're getting crypto cards. They are, dollarizing the economy. They're not using the local currencies. They are, they started to not look towards financial products that have been offered by the banks. A lot of the banking is in a huge debt. If you really ask me, the biggest debt of banks and financial sector today in most countries is the debt of technology and innovation, right? It's not just the financial debt, but it's the debt of innovation, right? So in this case, because of that, there is overall sort of consensus forming that we need to change, right? It's not just that understanding, it's not acceptance, not everybody likes this, but there is some sort of a consensus that we have to adopt AI, we have to look towards adopt digital assets, we have to adopt blockchain, right? And we need to do a lot more activities towards it. And one I need to give credit to, of course, our digital minister, who's also interestingly is a Sikh, right? Who has been working really hard towards pushing the nation towards becoming an AI nation and being a kind of a blockchain nation. So he has pushed a lot of the policy, a lot of the discussion, a lot of the agencies to ensure that they are working collaboratively towards getting this country forward. And also credit to the prime minister, because after his visit to Dubai, right? It was a big, I think, he basically came back and he said that we need to form a council on digital assets and AI, and we have to immediately start, looking towards this market, because Dubai is already much ahead in this market for, compared to us. So in 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, I remember when, I used to travel to Dubai, there was nothing about blockchain in the country. There was two or three dev shop from India who used to provide blockchain services in Dubai in 2017. And we had kind of companies like Etherscan, CoinGecko, we had exchanges, we have like wallets, we had everything. Today, Dubai has like maybe 5 to 6 thousand companies, right? We had just a couple of hundred. They have like far exceeded in terms of companies and numbers and number of ecosystems. So that is a big eye opener for us here in Malaysia, that we need to catch up. Although we have a lot of good innovators, but we still have to catch up in terms of attracting a lot of other innovators to the country as well as a financial hub. But back to you, Hamid.
No, thank you so much for that in-depth analysis, Harpreet. That definitely paints a picture. And while you were sharing this, on the back of my head, I was also realizing that along with this journey that you have seen, the different hype cycles, one thing has been constantly either contributing or holding back the blockchain ecosystem, and that's regulations. And that's being the major factor in all these areas, right? Whether institutions are becoming scared of blockchain, calling it a scam, some regulations come in, they stop calling it a scam and adopting it. When institutions are adopting it at a very high speed, some regulations come in and they again start calling it a scam. So it has been like a to and fro because of the regulations keep coming in. And now, when we talk about the post agentic world where AI agents act so fast and they are doing decision making at a speed of light, in a sense, right? So, how do we keep up with these ever changing regulations? What is the hardest hurdle, in my opinion? So, we understand that programmable compliance is going to be very key in defining the AI agents' new rails, how they are working and operationally. But how do we keep up with that? Do you have any idea on that?
So this is something that I've been doing a lot of government and regulators education and policy discussion since 2017. And one of my big push was that we have to look towards two things. One is, of course, programmable compliance, and the second thing is agile compliance or agile regulation. So if you are looking towards the overall idea of the regulatory market and a lot of this policy development, that we're going to think about and build this 10 years policy, or we're going to build this regulation plan, we're going to put fix everything into a box. But innovation doesn't work that way, right? So a lot of the way that we design computer systems or any programs or architectures, we tend to design them in an agile manner, right? We build something, we try, it doesn't work, we pivot, we change, we modify, we improve, right? So in this case, it's a lot more agile, right? So in this case, there's a lot more flexibility in terms of where the product can move towards. But if I am a financial company, I'm a technology company, I'm a bank, I need to come in and basically give my, like overall plans that how my digital bank is going to look like, what will be the precaution, what will be the risk, what will be this, what will be that. I lose the agility, right? I have to have work with a very predetermined order, and because of that, I only can work in that predetermined, predefined, regulated space, right? So there is a limitation towards it. Number two is when you talk about programmability of compliance, right? You need to have the right infrastructure, architecture, the base, right? So which is blockchain, right? In a way, which is digital DLTs, right? If you look into it. So that realization has just started to sink in a little bit, that this thing, not everybody got it yet. They still think that maybe they can push up some papers and push up some companies and tell them that, oh, we can regulate this. No, it's not. You need, when you want to look into having faster, more compliant financial ecosystem right now, for example, blockchain has go up and carved up its own section so far with crypto and said that we're going to do this, we're going to keep on expanding, we keep on going to getting bigger, right? And they are able to do things way more efficiently, right? Much cheaper, much faster, and they are growing much rapidly as well. So in this case, the institutions, the government had realized that this thing will go on even without them. Tomorrow, maybe these are the large institutions because they're able to get a lot of this money and all of those. But at the same time, now when they're trying to plug in that compliance element, they still don't have the clear understanding how they're going to plug in those frameworks and stuff. So that's where I think there has to be a lot of education, right? One, in terms of the regulatory leaders, and there's going to be a lot of digitization. Each of these regulator needs to have a digitization body, maybe like a chief digital officer or a CTO, into these regulatory bodies, and they need to start building this reg tech compliance programmability kind of teams where they can do research on how they can bring all these frameworks into this technology. So it's no longer the same case last time. Last time was manual work, like paperwork, and then basically you can force compliance on people. You can put the law onto people, right? Then things got digital, but you still had manual compliance, right? But now it's about digital compliance, right? So when you look into here, you have to digitize this a lot of these regulatory policy bodies, right? So they, once they are able to understand that, okay, the only way you can have, like a good compliance, I won't say the best or extreme or complete, right? There's always going to be, with all, there are going to be places that are not compliant, and there will be places that will be hard to comply, there will be gray space and all of those. Innovation is always going to be maybe like 5 to 10 step ahead of before you can get compliance, right? But again, but it will actually increase the speed of this perform, like of catching up with this innovation at the moment, if you're able to digitize these agencies.
Amazing. What I hear is that industries have adopted a practice of having a policy officer or a public policy office in their structure, in their enterprise structure. A similar thing has to be done from the government side, where they have certain industry experts or positions for people who understand industry and that are
Correct.
part of the system to bridge that gap.
Exactly.
Efforts have been made from one side. The other side also now I think is waking up to those efforts and trying to embed, because for a government official it's not at all possible to keep up with the speed of innovation that's happening, and we don't expect them to be. But at the same time, if there's a department dedicated, then it becomes easier to bridge that gap. And while we are on this topic, is this the vision behind Teiza? I saw that you call it as an operating system of digital economies. Is this the vision behind it, or what's the problem that you are solving?
So we are trying to build this phase by phase, because we are trying to kind of rethink how the structure works. So if I, let's say, if I, I'm not going in to build another blockchain protocol and compete, let's say, with Ethereum and all of those. I love Ethereum. I've been part of their ecosystem and part of a lot of these public blockchains. And I was one of the first people to bring players like Hyperledger with Linux Foundation. I'm an ambassador there, right? I brought in Hadira Hashcraft to Malaysia. I brought in R3 Coda to Malaysia. I even worked with JP Morgan in terms of bringing their banking solution. I feel there is a lot of problems, right, that are not being solved, right? So do I love like what the public blockchain guys are doing? Yes, they're doing an amazing job. They're solving and they're really showcasing the skills. But at the same time, I'm seeing that there's a lot of problems on the streets, people, distribution, like technology that technology can solve, right? Either it be a trust issue, either be a digitization issue, either be a distribution issue. There are many different problems that blockchain can solve. But because we don't have the right set of architectures, we don't have the right set of tools out there, or we don't have like the right balance among these tools, that we don't see these use cases kind of growing. So I spent, kind of like educating myself, learning about this space, and even running a dev shop since 2017. Right? When everybody was building an ICO, I decided like, nope, I don't want to build a token. That's not the objective. My objective is to be somewhere where I can learn most about the ecosystem while other people pay me. And in a gold rush, the best way is to sell shovels, right?
Yeah.
So I started selling my services and set up a dev shop, and I learned a lot about the blockchain space, right, from 2017 till now. But when coming towards now, I noticed that okay, a lot of things that I want to build, right? I like Agentic. I like a lot of this AI blockchain stuff. It's now started to come up. My prediction in 2027 was like this is only going to start in 2027, right? For your 2027 is the first where we're going to see any form of useful multi-agent systems, right? At the moment, we started to get towards that. A lot of them are still very centralized multi-ledger systems, but it started to come up. By 2027, maybe mid or late, is where I predicted 10 years ago, right, that we will see some useful multi-agent systems. By 2030 is where we're going to see a lot more like decentralized agents, multi-agent systems taking up the space. So that was my bold prediction. And I feel decentralized multi-agent system will be the way of the world. The reason why is because agents, AI is going to centralize and put too much of power in the form in certain institutions, right?
Yep.
So today when you look into cloud, like a majority of the cloud, like 70+% is in the hand of like five or six companies, right? And these five or six companies are basically mostly in China or US. They go to war, most of our cloud is gone, most of our data is gone, right? Even
Yep.
this AI is sitting on in these two countries. They go to war, most of that is also gone. Iran war has proved that even data centers are not safe anymore, right? Even OpenAI and I'm not sure OpenAI, but one of the data centers got hit, right,
Yep.
recently in UAE, right? So this is a risk, right? And it's a huge risk towards the progress of humanity, towards the progress of like economy, and to everybody else who's not even participating in this. And another thing that always kept me up at night, like during my early days, is being another neo digital colony, right? I mean, like my grandfathers, like as you said, I'm a fourth generation here in Malaysia, right? Came with the British here in Malaysia, they were, like part of the colonizers' force, but the colonizers were not good to them anyways, right? Colonization was never good for anyone, right? But and in this case, we don't want to get into another form where you're digitally colonized, right, by a bunch of strong, countries that are digitally, innovatively so much ahead, right, where their institutions and their companies dictate how the world works. Tomorrow, let's say, maybe the next president or Trump, maybe he's not happy with India. He just shut down Gemini, he shut down Open AI for India, and done. Like the amount of productivity loss is huge, right? And if you're not building your own sovereign AI, your own LLMs that are comparatively good enough, it will never pick up, right? It will never have the data, it will never have the skills, you will never have the local talent to actually build this. So that's why when I go toward this area, as I realized, I think the best remedy for an agentic ecosystem is to have some level of blockchain, right? In this particular infrastructure to ensure that the agents behave in a certain way. Their set of values are coded into this blockchain, and at the same time, their guardrails are kind of like determined by this blockchain, so it doesn't go out of bound, and there's a bit of level of stability in the network. But at the same time, I knew that has to be like an agent layer, an AI layer, which will be where the inferencing and compute will work. And above that, there's going to be multiple different stack. But today, when I go and pitch this idea, I sound like a bit cuckoo. This guy is like trying to build his agent, his AI, this blockchain. A lot of these things has to be face by face. So we went with Teiza. We said, okay, let's build this layer trees, right? Go and build a blockchain layer. Try to digitize everything from identity, stablecoin. Try to build some use cases around it, and then as we are getting these use cases, we are getting to work with institutions. We are, we are expanding and building a consortium. We started to also build some of the AI layers. We started to look into acquiring AI companies, getting more AI talent, and start the research work on how the compute layer is going to work. And instead of going up and building a private chain for 50 different institutions, we said we can decentralize locally through a consortium. So we established like a blockchain consortium that it becomes a shared infrastructure that is co-owned, co-governed, co-developed, and in this becomes a way for all those people to share. So the use cases are a lot more valuable. Instead of like one bank owning the chain and asking everybody to use it, and then 50 different banks will come in and 50 different chains will come. Everybody has to integrate, everybody control. What's the point of blockchain? Database was better, right? It was more, like I say, it performs much better in that case. But if let's say you want to build a kind of a shared ecosystem where people are able to innovate, you need to have some sort of consortium and you have to localize this blockchain because a lot of this blockchain risk is very localized and there's a lot of sovereignty risk. So that's why we notice when we are trying to talk to the government, they don't a lot of this. Like America is very happy to definitely push for stable coins and a stable coin policy because that dollarize the world. It exports their debts and their currency is international anyways, right? And it pushes out there. But tomorrow, let's say you want to get India to do it, right? Ask India to go up and build a stable coin. It's going to be tough, right? You get a lot of the small countries to go up and push a stable coin. It's going to be tough. And the main reason is because a lot of these banks or the central banks of these countries have a policy to not internationalize their currencies. And the reason why they do that, because when the moment they do it, they basically fall into manipulation risks, FX risk, AML, ATF risk. There's a lot of different risk when you want to internationalize your currency. But the moment you put any of the stable coins, let's say on Solana, it's internationalized. It is out of control. It goes out all all over around the world, right? And it becomes a huge challenge for the central banks. Same goes data. Imagine tomorrow, right? If I want to get to know any of India's movement, let's say I'm one of the adversaries or one of the neighbors who don't really like it, right? I can just let's say all this data is sitting on Solana chain or any of the public chains. I just log in. I can see who's moving who, what's the economical momentum, what's going on. I don't know the names or who are these people, but I can get a lot of private citizen transactional data, like stablecoin data, maybe their digital identity data on this public chain, and I can actually from there do analysis of where is active, where might be more active economical centers, where are more people sitting down, blah 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 blah. Right, I can get all those information, which can also be another set of sovereignty risk, right? So a lot of when we are designing blockchains and we are trying to build those ecosystem, people are seeing it from the point of view that okay, we got to blockchain the world, we got to change, we got to kill the banks. This has been the narrative from early days, and now people think that oh, we got to like put up everything up there. But being fully open has its challenges as well. So my worldview from very early was all of this will exist, right? There are places where we need public chains, right? We need that public transparency, accountability, and auditability, right? And there are certain times we cannot have transparency. We might need some level of privacy, but verifiability, right? So there will be different layers in Teza that focuses on different, a set of use cases and trying to achieve a lot of these objectives. But at the same time, we are starting stage by stage. So we're setting up something here in Malaysia. We're setting up something in Central Asia. We're setting up. So what we're trying to do is like we're trying to build like those consortiums, get set of industries and innovators to come together, start building new institutional focused use cases that will become eventually the operating system of the digital economy, right? So that's where phase by phase, it is actually going to build those layers, like a kind of build, win the trust of the market, showcase the use cases, and go mainstream, right? Instead of trying to shove a cryptocurrency or like a new fundamentals ideas out there that this is the only way it's going to work and you got to accept it, right? I think there is a way we can re-engineer trust into what is already existing. It exists because it worked, right? Maybe we can re-engineer trust into it. We can improve it. We can make it better. We make it more efficient, right? And we rebuild some of these things that is needed. But whatever can be discarded and digitized, we discard it and digitize. So that is like the overall mission of what we do here in Teza.
Amazing. In 2023, I wrote a book titled Why Blockchain. And the subtitle of the book was Where Privacy and Transparency Coexist. And inside the book, I lead to this statement that it is never about public blockchain or private blockchain. Eventually, it has to be a hybrid model where you understand where public comes in, where private comes in, and you make sure which parts of a whole scenario have to be transparent and which has to be private. That is a decision in the architecture side. So completely agree with your vision there, and I think the most innovative take here is that digital colonization, in a sense, people say history repeats itself. So we know that there are going to be certain areas where history will repeat, and we can stop that or we can protect against that. But we have to know where exactly is history going to repeat. It's not physical colonization, it's digital colonization now, which I think gives a lot of context to a lot of different questions we all have in our minds when we think about certain countries leading certain hype cycles or certain waves. For example, a country leading tokenization, a country leading in stable coins, a country leading in AI generation and data centers, and so on and so forth. Not just in blockchain and AI, but every other aspects. For example, cloud was one very good example that you shared in this sense. And then the thing that was coming to my mind was energy generation, solar energy generation, how countries are leading that also now. So it's quite interesting to see that. And I think that's where Teza has been positioned as a data sovereignty and global connectivity layer that I saw on the website. And but that's very tricky in the post web, right? From a theoretical perspective, we understand this is how it should be, but it's quite tricky. AI agents need access to sensitive data to function well, but blockchain's transparency model can conflict with that, right? With the data privacy requirements like GDPR and Malaysia's PDPA and others. So, how do you reconcile that tension? How do you make sure that the system works without disrupting anything?
So I mean, you need to look towards new models, right? For sure, right? Like for example, like on Tezas on our layer tree, we noticed that institutions would not want to keep all data on chain, so we started to explore ZKVM, right? Can we put verifiability and basically build sort of data availability consortiums where you can keep this data with a set of institutional consortiums who are trusted, who are voted, who like able to govern, like who the consortium is able to govern, right? And so this data is available, is verifiable, and it's available when it's needed, right? So that's why you have the availability consortium to ensure that there's availability of this data instead of just duplicating a lot of this data across nodes and just throwing it up online. And and there's going to be a lot of sensitive information, right? It can be transactional information, there can be people's privacy health data, there might be people's house addresses and stuff, right? Which you would not want to keep it onto a blockchain, even if let's say you can uh, maybe like hash it, or you can encrypt it and everything. But as quantum is progressing, as a lot of these new tools are progressing, the risk is also coming, right? Of course, a lot of these things are very robust, right? They are a lot of there's going to be a lot of back and forth argument. No, this is secure enough, we can encrypt it, we got the best level of encryptions and put up it. But why even risk it in the first place when you don't need it, right? You so if having a trustless mechanism every single time is not necessary, right? Sometimes even a trusted mechanism works, right, and is able to give you value. So I'm not saying that one better than the other. I think it will be the internet of blockchains, right? There's going to be many different forms of blockchains out there, either trusted, trustless, and all of those. But what will happen is it will kind of all started to work together over time, right? Even like the public blockchains, the private blockchains, the institutional blockchains, the like these bank-led blockchains, the government-led blockchains. There's going to be a lot of this all forming up, right? They will be like spawning, creating, some dying, some integrating, some surviving. So there's going to be like all of this coming up throughout the world, like all these networks coming up towards the world until we reach like some level of stability where there are like some dominant networks that have captured, and they manage to get quite a lot of use cases, quite a lot of functional things that are creating value to the society, and they maintain, and they are stacking up above them, like they will stack up. So eventually, where you will build other services, maybe you will have agentic layers, maybe you will have edge computing layers, maybe you'll have the micro IoT sensing layers, right? A lot of those will start popping up as well, maybe, right? Similar to how the centralized like ecosystem poured up, like including the cloud ecosystem. They first started to build the clouds, you just keep some all the data, then they started to include a lot more services, then they started to build a lot more features and functionalities, and they started to expand as an ecosystem, right? Although they didn't do a lot of cross cloud like kind of integration, but here there's a possibility in a more decentralized structure, something like this, even a decentralized cloud is a possibility for the future.
So multi-agent, multi-blockchain is the way forward in a
Mm.
sense, right? Just to put it in a framework, if we are talking about multi-agent, it's so easy for us to imagine, even though we have not seen it. Why not multi-blockchain, which we have even seen till now when we are, transacting with multiple stable coins or multiple blockchains, doing all that bridging and exchanging. We are already experiencing that with agents that becomes faster, right? So they get to use the best parts of best blockchains, and then there comes the next question of which blockchain is better for which kind of activity. Structurally, with the right consensus mechanism and with the right cryptographic engine, maybe one blockchain is more suitable for micro transactions into agent to agent transactions. Maybe another blockchain is more suitable for agent to agent communication for certain other reasons. So that this gives the optionality and becomes more flexible, modular, or I'll say even optimized in a way that best uh, combination of blockchain and AI agents create the best outcome, right?
Correct. Yeah, I agree. So this is so when you look into the family, right, in terms of distributed ledger technology, all the different form or way you can actually build a distributed ledger, right? Initially, when we were building Teza, we were actually considering a DAG because we were optimizing for stable coins and payments, right? So one of the reasons why the name was also Teza because you want to do fast transactions, right? But as we progress, we noticed that it's not about the speed, right? That people are bothered. You can have like hundreds or thousands of TPS, right? That's not the actual problem. Why people are not actually digitizing, right? The why people are in the institutions are not going in this is because of the privacy concerns, the data, the governance, the fear of decentralization, right? Those became like the bigger problem. You can always build a blockchain, right? And then above that, add another layer, right? Maybe the payment layer, settlement layer, which are more optimized for those services, right? There's and in this case, you are able to give better delivery and a better performance. But again, it will come down to the idea when you look into multi-model blockchains or multi-agents, why they are necessary. When you look into multi-agents instead of a singular agent or a single huge LLM, like a thinking AI, because the the multi-agents structure with having these subunits of intelligence, it gives you a lot more flexibility, right? You can have, let's say, an agent that is amazing in financial data modeling, right? Maybe you have an agent that is really good financial engineer. You can have a blockchain engineer agent, for example. They all can be working together to kind of ideate towards what is the next best financial product to create, like with all the tools that are available to them, and they can basically communicate, coordinate, and collaborate towards creating this new set of financial product that is beneficial to the market, maybe beneficial for them to actually trade and create, right? So in this case, you create that subset of intelligence that is independent, that is able to come up with independent thought, and at the same time able to argue those thoughts. But when you build like large agents with a very limited amount of decision making. Although you have all the data, all the set of skills, all the set of tools, they have this set of limitation. And plus with this, a lot of these agents can also be like with different form of LLMs, different forms of structure. So they have a different inferencing model to come to a solution, right? To come to an answer. So in this case, with that difference, also it will actually optimize and get better answers. Same goes towards blockchain. All this blockchain, people who are trying to build the blockchain of the world, right? So they were trying to build this one blockchain that does it all. You can game on it, you can compute on it, you can do DeFi, you can do gaming, you can do this, you can do that. The moment, because it was my early realization, the moment you try to be the blockchain does it all, you can't do nothing good, right? So over time, I think a lot of the protocol players has also realized that. So they started to gonna go towards specialization, right? So
Purposeful
in this case,
blockchain.
the multi-model will go towards the specialization model. I don't think so. The perfect blockchain will exist. Yeah.
No, absolutely, Harpreet. I think to add to your point, blockchain people have been solving problems that they themselves created. Like, for
Mm.
example, we have been talking about blockchain trilemma till now, and it's not that big of a problem that is being overhyped, and everyone is trying to solve blockchain trilemma and saying that, okay, I want decentralization along with scalability and security. But if you're talking about, for example, a gaming use case, maybe it doesn't need that kind of decentralization. Maybe it needs to focus only on scalability first, right? And that's where purpose-built blockchains have been the biggest trend in the past couple of years. People have been building the blockchain for RWA, the blockchain for gaming, the blockchain for this and that. That also has become a bit saturated now, and I think with this current ecosystem where it's moving, it's now become more matured in a sense that blockchains are solving certain problems, but they are not claiming that they are the blockchain for a particular area. They are the blockchain to solve a particular problem, whichever area might have it. For example, if I have a blockchain which is solving the problem of faster communication, it can be for AI agents, it can be for other blockchains, it can be for machine to machine interaction, it can be for anything. But at the end of the day, it has to be a problem. But again, thanks so much, Harpreet, for your valuable inputs. I just have one last question before I let you go. I know I'm already running out of time. Uh, we have discussed a lot about different use cases, from financial applications to how AI agents are moving forward, and how blockchains fit in the post agentic world. And then what would a startup need to understand if it's building an autonomous financial advisor right now, where they should pick blockchain and where they should leave blockchain. But the most fascinating aspect of this whole conversation for me personally was, number one, the digital colonies that you referenced, and number two, how you painted a picture of the Malaysian regulation ecosystem, how it progressed, how you shared your journey from 2012 till now, where the world has progressed, and you see different hype cycles where you, even though doing a master's in the multi-agent system, you went towards a blockchain expertise route to mature that thinking further before it became a reality now, and will become a reality in 2027 as you predicted. Now, one key area that you mentioned here was that at the time that you were exploring regulatory aspects of the country's maturity, Malaysia was the first one, probably, to have a good mature ecosystem, but it couldn't continue that momentum to be a leader in the space. So how do you see Malaysia's regulatory environment shaping up for the convergence of AI agents and blockchain? Is it going to be ahead of the curve, or going to play catch up now that it's a bit delayed, I'll say?
I think Malaysia will. You see, this is positioning of Malaysia compared to the others, right? You have to understand where they are right now, right? So when you look towards Dubai, Dubai has a bit of existential mindset, right? That they are basically, like they have to innovate, they have to improve, or it's going to run out. Nobody wants, you have to keep on building stuff. We need to build more towers. We need to, like build more services. We need to be efficient. We have to be number one, right? So it's like the mindset they have. When you have that mindset, right, you're building, like the efficient processes. You're building the most, best regulation there is. You make it a really friendly environment. And plus because it's a very top-down approach, a lot of these things, when the top says that this is how we're going to do it, everybody listen, or you're out of the picture, right? So in this case, or you won't be operating over there anymore. So in this case, there's a lot of those. There is the pros to it, of course, efficiency. Once they make their mind, let's say they want to get into quantum, they'll spend billions of dollars to getting into quantum, maybe trillions if they need to, right? But they will be one of the best places for quantum. But then again, they are optimized as a country for execution, to capturing attention, to capturing business, to capture money, and to grow. Like as a country, let's say taking example of Dubai, very similar to Hong Kong, very similar to Singapore. They are structured in a very similar way because they are a small country. They have to grow that way. First Singapore did it, then Hong Kong did it, then Dubai did it, right? So that's why they will definitely be much ahead in terms of attracting all these companies. But coming towards Malaysia, Malaysia has a different mindset. Malaysian side is, we are a mature democracy, right? We we are, of course, we're in the set of the developing countries, right? Economically we are growing, but we have other challenges as well, right? Our biggest challenges is not that we are trying to be the number one in terms of attracting all these people to come here. We are trying to make sure that we are, kind of having a balanced livelihood, right, among the people. There's nobody being left behind in terms of the economy. There's a lot more innovation that is helping to push, this subset of people who are currently trapped in poverty or in the lower level to come up. And there is what they call religious harmony. There is peace, right? There's no geopolitical tensions. So they are optimized more towards that direction. So if you look towards even in ASEAN, right? Even if you have a bit of skirmishes or whatever, we have a bit of beef. We don't go towards a lot of wars or battles because the mindset is that we are trying to improve in economy, but at the same time build relationship. At the same time, try to not trying to go out there and conquer the world. But Malaysia, why I feel is going to be in a good position in the coming years in terms of agents, blockchains, and most innovation, because Malaysians itself, right? Even if the government is still trying to figure out its footing in blockchain, Malaysian was first to innovate, right? Malaysians are among the most competitive people in ASEAN and one of the most competitive in the world. So if you go into America, you'll see among the richest chart, you will see Singapore, Malaysian, Indians all in the list, and Malaysians being one of the small countries, right, and not one of the richest ones, is still in the list, right? Among the richest peoples in American, you'll see among the richest people in UK, some of the richest people in Australia, you will see Malaysian named there, right? And they're one of the most competitive, right? Because they're trying to go up there and prove themselves. They have skills to globalize themselves. So a lot of them, because Malaysia is a small market, so the moment you want to, you build something, you're thinking about the global market. You're trying to go and capture the global business. You're trying to go up and build that ecosystem. So in terms of Malaysia as a market, the world's like one of the best decentralized agentic market. We talk about virtuals. Where did it came out from? It came out from Malaysia. The founders are Malaysian, right? Some of the best DEX aggregators came out from Malaysia. Some of the best data companies on blockchain came out from Malaysia, and a lot of the innovators are coming in from this land. So I will bet my money that basically Malaysia will, as a country, as a place, we are not definitely marketed that well. We don't have huge conferences. We don't have a lot of strong branding like Dubai, Singapore, other countries, because they're able to attract a lot more money, a lot more attention. But Malaysian innovators will be global world class, and I think they'll get better from here, and they will be definitely building up products and tools, and and things that will go and basically make the world a better place. I think that is something that I think we can be proud as Malaysians, and I think there will be a lot more happening from our side.
Amazing. I believe that is the spirit of Malaysia that we all would have to keep an eye out on. And with that, thank you so much, Harpreet, for sharing your thoughts and perspectives. It was quite insightful, and I can't wait for the audience to hear these thoughts and then contemplate on how the future is moving, and where the post-agentic world is coming together with the blockchains that we have done in the past. Thank you again for your time today.
It's a pleasure.